G'day all, it's Temujin from SL Colonies here, and in today's video I'm doing a tutorial of the fermenting station, part of the brewing system. It is one of the stages available in brewing, and as you may be aware, there is a few steps to brewing, including a juicing system, a juice press. We've then got a mash tun, optional mashing process, which you can then put into your fermentor, and then we've got an optional distilling process, which increases yet again the alcohol content of your final brew. And then we've got an aging process to increase primary stats. And then finally we've got a bottling station and barreling station. But anyway, today's video is about the Fermentor, so we'll discuss that and I'll show you how it works step by step. The first thing you should be aware of is that it's fully modifiable. If you right click it and go edit and zoom inside, you'll see that the main prim is actually a yellow transparent square. You can unlink this. This square from the main mesh and move it to your own mesh to suit your sim design. Alright, so you're not limited to this specific design, although it is very beautiful, I must admit. So the next step, basically, if you left click this, you'll be presented with craft or use recipe. We'll start with craft on this stage, so I can go step by step. You've got two options when you go to craft. We do use a Unity system, which is the animated HUD that you may have seen some of our other products. If you click HUD, you'll use the in-game version, and if you click on web page, you'll get the Meter website version, which circumvents a lot of issues people had with the in-world version with their browsers. Some computer systems were not happy with it. But we're going to use HUD in this instance for the purpose of making this video. When it loads, just left click as it says. Don't mind me, I'm just going to edit this and move it a bit to the right so it's away from my webcam and you can see more of the screen. Let this load and I'll explain how this all works. So this is a bit like the mash tun. This is like your ingredients table, your recipe making table. On the top left you've got some solids that you can add. On the bottom left you've got liquids you can add. On the top here you've got the recipes button. This is your previous recipe, so if you click it, it will come up with a recipe book. And so you can see that I have one Temujin Special Brew. It tells you the ingredients that I had put in and what stats I achieved by fermenting it. In this one I didn't achieve any health or energy or blood or anything like that because I stopped the process within 2 minutes of it starting the fermentation. Also got no drunk stat. So it's really, this is not really a alcohol drink. I'll hit cancel on there. On the top right you've got microorganisms, which are your different types of yeast. We've got 6 types of yeast. We've got the regular yeast that was originally in the game. We then got the ancient yeast, beer yeast, sake yeast, spirit yeast and wine yeast. They all have different abilities and different conversion rates of sugar, so they handle sugar or convert sugar to alcohol in better or worse sort of abilities, right? And I'll show you how that all works. Here, liquid required. You need to add at least 50 liquids before you will get a craft button on the bottom right here. Here it shows you what you've added to your recipe, and then you got your max alcohol per drink. This will tell you how much drunk stat you'll get per drink, maximum if you achieve the maximum, and then a specific gravity. Specific gravity I'll explain to you when we get into the actual crafting process. And you will appreciate it as if you've done brewing in real life before. So as you see, I've got potato corn syrup mash, which is one of the mashes I made in the mashing station or mash tun. These are concentrated and will increase your alcohol content a lot quicker than using other ingredients. So let's choose a microorganism first. We'll go with wine. Alright, let's add a mash to it. You can add a maximum of 8 mashes. And the reason being is because your mash also counts as a liquid. So I've added the mash and you can see here 6 out of 50 of liquid requirement has been met. So you can only add 8 because 8 sixes are 48. As you can see with the wine yeast here, my maximum alcohol using one mash is already 7.169 and my specific gravity is 1.055. If I add another one, I've doubled my alcohol content here and a specific gravity of 1.109. And I want to show you an example of what happens, why the different yeasts work different ways. and I'll do this by, I'll use 10 honey, because honey is a good base to measure alcohol content and gravity, alright? So it's got, honey doesn't have a liquid thing, so I'll add some water, the 50 water to this. So as you can see, on my wine yeast, with 10 honey and 50 water, I get a 6.873 maximum alcohol per drink potential, and my specific gravity is 1.052. If I now hit craft, because I've met the minimum requirements, you'll see, I'll read this all out to you, but below are the potential stats per drink for the alcohol you wish to brew. The stats may change based on your brewing time or fermenting time. Brew naming will happen when the fermentation is finished. So the maximum ability that this drink can have, if I ferment it for the right amount of time, is I can have 2 health, 1 energy, 1 fatigue fixed, and 1 sick fixed, so that decreases your sickness, and fatigue. My sugar is 720 with a wine yeast. I'll explain what sugar does over time with the hydrometer when I show you the actual mesh, and a specific gravity of 1052. I'll hit cancel here, and I'll change the yeast now, so take note of the sugar content specifically. Sugar is 720. Alright, so if I change it to, say, a spirit yeast, which is able to give you a higher alcohol per drink, so we'll go to the spirit. So now my alcohol increases because it converts the sugar to alcohol. However, my sugar went to 760. Alright, 760, back to wine, 720, which is what you'd expect. But then we also have ancient yeast, which works a little different. You see my alcohol dropped here, and my sugar content also dropped down to 600. However, I'll show you the big however, if you want to achieve a higher alcohol content in all your drinks, ancient yeast is even better than your spirits in terms of that. So let's increase the honey output. Let's put in the max honey. You'll see here that the maximum alcohol that I could achieve is 25. If I hit craft, my sugar is 9420 on my ancient yeast. If I now go to a spirit, my alcohol drops to 20. My sugar though is 11,932. I've got a lot more sugar. It's much better at converting sugars from alcohol. Sorry, alcohol from sugars. And my wines only has 16 maximum and 11,304 compared to that 25 but 9,420. Might not be too important if you reach your maximum here and you don't care, but obviously this is a waste. So let's say I've got 25 alcohol, look how much honey I've added. But now let's remove 100 of these honeys and I probably still have a high alcohol content. See that? Let's remove another 20. So there we go. Now, you don't want to really add more ingredients if you're not going to get more alcohol out of it. You want to get to that sweet spot. Basically, I'll also move this over now that I'm going to show you the actual mesh object. We'll move it here because I'll zoom into the mesh ton. No, let's get it out of the way. So the mash tun now has a working hydrometer, which is this thing here. It will show you basically how a hydrometer works. It shows you the specific gravity of the contents of the container. So right now, because there's nothing inside, I haven't hit craft, it's at 1 gravity, which is standard. Okay, as you can see here, the specific gravity of this brew is 1.161. Oh, you can't see it because I've got my logo here. 1.161. Alright, gravity here is 1. Let's hit craft. Now remember what it said here, that I do not get to name it and give a description until I finalize my brew. So the maximum potential alcohol I can get out of this drink is 21.191 down here. Take note, you should keep it on a piece of paper. You don't have to, it will tell you in the chat anyway. The 1.161 specific gravity. This is basically your original gravity for the product you are making. You'll need that to calculate your alcohol content during the brewing process. And the maximum health I can achieve is these stats, primary stats. It's health 7, energy 4, 1. So hit craft. Now keep in mind also, before I hit craft, the maximum displayed specific gravity on this meter, on this hydrometer, is 1.20. So if you've got more than 1.20 here, you might find your meter will go all the way to the top. It's not a bug that I thought it was, it's actually just maxed out. Okay, so you'll just have to ignore the needle and go with the calculations it spits out in chat for you. So I'll hit craft. The needle will move to the specific gravity of 1.161. Right, 1.15, 1.161 is over here. And in chat, it shows me here that I've now got a temp brew, shows you up here as well. Maximum alcohol that I can achieve is 21.2, starting gravity of 1.161, and they're my ingredients. Okay, starting gravity. As you see here, this does not count down, it counts up. Alright, so the longer you leave your fermentation fermenting, the more the hydrometer will drop, because how hydrometer works is it measures the amount of sugar inside the mix, right? So as the yeast that you've chosen converts the sugar into alcohol, the sugar content drops, it consumes that sugar, and it reduces the gravity, the specific gravity inside this fermenter. So it will drop. And basically there is a formula to find out your alcohol. If you're a brewer, you'll achieve this needle. So if you've got a 1.161 original gravity, we'll call that OG. That's your original gravity. Then later on, when you click, or not even click, when you look at this needle, and let's say it's at 1.11 now, that is now your current gravity that you're looking at. So we'll call that CG. So you've got original gravity 1.161 minus your current gravity of 1.10, for example, and then you will multiply it by 135.1. I think it's 135.1. It could be 131.5. Don't quote me on this, but that will give you your alcohol percentage. And if you've done brewing in real life before, you'll appreciate this formula. You'll be able to use it using this meter. But the other way to do it is you can actually, anytime through the process, so it's been going for almost 2 minutes now, you'll left click it and you can hit test, right? And it will tell you now that my max is still 21.2, my starting gravity was 1.161, but this fermentation's current specific gravity is also 1.161, and the reason it's still 1.161 is it's because it's only been going for 2 minutes. You really want to leave your fermentation going for a few days. Okay, every day your specific gravity will drop, and it will also tell you your alcohol content if you hit finish. Yes, so if you hit finish instead of test, you'll also get the reading of your alcohol content or drunk stat. Currently is 0.0 because there's no difference between 1.161 and 1.161. 0 alcohol percent. And if you hit yes, if you want to finish, this is where you get to name your recipe and give it a description. So I'll hit yes, and I can give it a name here, and then I can give it a description. I'm not going to do that because I've already got a recipe, and I'm not going to just create a wasted recipe in the system. I'm going to let you guys create it. Okay. So you can find out the stats that way. Alright, so another thing is, once you do reach the alcohol content, that maximum 1.161 in this case, the maximum 21.2 in this case, if you reach that, you can still ferment beyond that. So let's say it takes 7 days to get this maximum alcohol reading on this specific fermentation, and I want to leave it in there for another 7 days. I can. Are there benefits to it? Depends what you want. So when you get to the maximum alcohol, there is still going to be sugar content in there. The yeast can still take away the sugar. Now this is not realistic. We've just left this in the game just to make it fun, because it is a game at the end of the day, and we don't want to make this too real. So if you leave it past the maximum alcohol, it will not go beyond that. So my maximum is 21.2. I can't get 22, I can't get 25. That's the maximum. I've still got sugar. The yeast will still convert that sugar. It just won't convert it to alcohol, just consume it. And instead of getting beneficial stats, you will instead every day get a poison stat. Alright, so it'll increase the poison level of your fermentation. So you'll actually get sicker when you drink this drink. Is that a good thing? Could be, depending what you're wanting to make. Maybe you want to make a poisonous drink. So, what happens when there's no sugar left? You can do that too. You want to leave the fermentation for a year, you can. When you've got no sugar left, not only will you get poison stats increase, but you will also get a decrease in the beneficial stats. So where we see the stats of health and hunger and food and all that stuff, that'll decrease. It will go 0 and give you negatives. So it will make you more hungry. It will make you sick. Up to a certain point. So you can leave your fermentations. Now, a couple things I will note about this system is because fermentations do not have a time limit, because there is no time limit and you can leave it there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you, as the owner of this, you don't really want to leave it open to the public because you open it up to abuse, or you open it up to a normal player coming into your brewery and starting a fermentation process thinking they're going to leave it there for a year to get a really cool fermentation. Well, not a year, but let's say a week. And then you're blocked. You can't now use it. And as the owner, you still can long left click and you'll still get the reset button come up and you can reset it. And as a player, you'll then lose all your ingredients, unfortunately. So I would highly recommend, as the owner of a brewery, to set this to group or to your colony. And if you are a player, I would highly recommend not to use a public one if you're intending to leave it for a long period of time. I would maximum leave it 1 day and then come back and finish your thing, or you're going to lose your ingredients potentially if the owner of the system of the fermenter gets sick of waiting. Okay, they wouldn't appreciate you hogging it. I think I've covered everything. Yep. Yep, if you finish it, you get to name it. If you long left click, you get to reset it. You can also turn off the hover text, change the name of a Fermentor, all that stuff, link your sign, and set your security as well as set sounds. Alright, so that's that. I'll reset it because I don't want to go to that. Also, when you do have recipes, you can left click it instead of going to craft. You can of course use your recipe. So I've got my special recipe here that I showed you before in the book. I want to craft one of those. Now the hydrometer doesn't work, or it's not relevant when you're making something you've already created, invented, alright? So it won't show a reading, but it will start processing. Unfortunately, I don't have enough potatoes though to start it, so I won't be able to show you. But the hydrometer is not relative to it, and instead of counting up, it will count down based on the recipe you created. So if it took 2 minutes and you stop the fermentation process, that recipe will always be for 2 minutes unless you make a new one. Alright, no worries, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.